We can still use elimination to solve for this. Now, if you look at these two equations, you know that these are not going to cancel out. Okay. Now, even if we subtracted them, they would not cancel out. So, a really easy way to do this is you can use elimination by using with multiplication. Okay, you can multiply one of these equations, let's say by, if you multiply that top equation by -2, okay, if you multiply that top equation by -2, that whole equation, we could get the y's to cancel. Okay, so like if you distribute that, -2 times 2x gives you a -4x. -2 times y gives me a -2y. -2 times 23 gives me a -46. Okay? We can use multiplication and elimination at the same time. Okay? Now, you could have done that a couple different ways. Christian came up with another idea. You could have multiplied the top by 2, and then you could have subtracted the bottom equation. That's correct. Okay? Or, if you wanted to, you could have multiplied this times 2, and then this times 3. Okay? The main objective is to get your x's or y's to cancel, one or the other. So there are multiple ways of doing that. So I chose to multiply the top by -2. So the reason why I did that is so my y's will cancel. I can use elimination to solve from right here. Okay? If I add those together, -4x plus 3x gives me what?
1x.
-1x. My y's cancel. If you add -46 to +37, what do you get?
9.
Okay, so I'm adding 37 plus -46, and Harley said what? -9? -9. Okay? Now to get x by itself, that's what we're solving for right now. Divide both sides by -1.
Isn't that just like dividing it by negative?
It's not hard.
Never mind.
Now that we have our x value, we can figure out our y value just by plugging in our x equals 9. Now let's use that top equation. Let's substitute our x, our 9 value, into that first equation. So I'm going to substitute that in. 3 times 9 plus 2y is equal to 37. Okay? From here, all I'm doing is solving for y. So I'm going to do 3 times 9. Okay, all I'm doing is solving for y.
Y equals 5.
I'm going to minus 27 from both sides. I'm getting y by itself. That is my main objective. That leaves me with a positive 10. Okay. And you divide both sides by 2. Y is equal to 5. So my solution would be what? 9, 5. Okay, that is my set. By something. I'm going to multiply my top equation by -3 because I'm going to get those x's to cancel. Make sure you multiply that whole equation by -3.
Oh, it has to be by -3?
No, it doesn't have to be. You can multiply it by 3, but then you would have to subtract the problems. You can do it that way too. That's fine. That's fine. Okay? That's fine. Okay, so that gives me a -3x. -3 times 7y gives me a -21y. -3 times a 12 gives me a negative what? 36. Okay.
Okay, so we're making the bottom x negative and multiplying it to the top, right?
We're Making the bottom x.
Like, okay, so you have 3x, so you make it negative 3x and just put it on the top.
I think you're right. What do you mean? What is your question?
Like, are you taking the bottom number of the x and putting it on top and making it negative?
I am multiplying that first equation by -3 across the board.
Well, I know that, but why did you pick negative 3?
Because I want my x's to cancel. How do I get my x's to cancel?
I don't know.
First of all, I need the opposite sign, which would be a negative, okay?
And the same number.
And the same number.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I needed.
Yeah. Okay. So, my x's will cancel. So now I'm adding negative 21y plus negative 5y. Gives me a negative 26y. I'm adding negative 36 plus 10. Leaves me with what?
Wait. Didn't you say you had to add though?
Would you?
Yes, I'm adding them together.
Yeah, but on the 3 and negative.
So, if you want to get y by itself, divide both sides by negative 26. That leaves me with 1. So, now that we have our y value, we can substitute it in to our equation up here and figure out our x value. Okay? That's all I'm going to do. So I got 3x minus 5. There's my y, so I plug in 1. Is equal to 10. From here, I'm solving, getting x by itself. Okay, 5 times 1. Add 5 to both sides.
Why do they put these number pairs?
Because you're finding where they intersect. So you need your x and y.
Once you hit the top one, it's really bad.
Okay?
Can we do it now?
We do like 20.
Any more questions about this one? Good. Does everybody have it down? Guys, put the phone on. I don't mind you listening to music, but let's not be playing whatever, I don't know, checking whenever you guys check. Whatever it's called. Okay?
Hold on, still checking the thing.
Still writing?
I know, so, yeah.
What'd you do to begin with, Tony? What'd you do to begin with?
I'm just checking over my work.
Oh, okay. Did you multiply the top equation by -3?
No, I got negative 1 and messed up one thing. Like, y equals 1, I got negative 1.
Does it check the positive from 3 to 36? How do you get a positive?
I added 10 plus -36.
Okay,
But you
so
still get a positive.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, you
Okay? Now this one, you can't just multiply one of the equations by one number.
You might have to do both of them.
So you need to multiply both equations by a certain number.
I know what it is.
I'll give you about 2 minutes and then I'm going to start on it. So try it
It
by
ain't gonna be the
yourself.
same number.
Christian.
Hey, I know what it is.
Okay, good.
That's why I just asked. It doesn't have to be.
it doesn't know.
No.
Sorry.
Girls. Correct. Put this down.
What number would you multiply this by?
Now you need to get a number so that
What's a shortcut menu? What is this?
I just said do not show me again. You need to you're going to have to multiply both equations by a number. Okay? So you have to multiply that first equation by a certain number, then you have to multiply that second equation by a certain number so that you can get either your x or your y value to cancel.
I know what it is.
I don't.
Four X That's your swallow.
Just by looking at this, you can tell you can't just multiply one of these equations by a number, okay, to cancel it out. Okay? So, you need to multiply both of these equations so that you can get either x or y to cancel. It looks like to me you could have done this two different ways. You could have got your y's to cancel, or you could have got your x's to cancel. Whichever one you wanted to do, that's fine. For me, I'm going to try to get my x's to cancel. Okay? Now that I have decided that,
You get a portrait.
4x, and I have a 3x. If you multiply 4 times 3, you get to 12. And if you multiply 3 times 4, you get to 12. So it looks like I can do that. If I multiply that first equation by 3, and that second equation by 4, my x's will cancel. The last step to this is, let's go ahead and make that bottom equation a negative. Because I need a 12x and I need a negative 12x. Okay? So,
I did it wrong again.
well, the thing about this, you can do this a couple of different ways. So, I mean, there's no one right way to do this. The steps are still the same, the concept of it, but there's no one right way to do this. Okay? So, when I do that, up top, it gives me a 12x. 3 times 3y gives me a 9y. 3 times 8 gives me what?
Wait, what? 92? 24.
24. Okay?
I got negative 24.
So that's my first equation. You might have multiplied by a negative 3.
Oh, you restart the equation?
I didn't
See,
understand
that's
that
what I
again.
did.
I'm going to multiply everything times negative 4. So right off the bat, that gives me a negative 12x. Negative 4 times a negative 5y gives me a positive 20y. Negative 4 times negative 23 gives me what?
92.
92. Okay? Now, I have this how I want this. I wanted to get rid of my x's, so I have a positive 12x and I have a negative 12x. So I'm going to add 12x plus negative 12x, which gets rid of my x's. That cancels. Okay?
Oh my gosh, I getting bad for that.
I'm going to add 9y plus 20y, which gives me 29y.
Well, how would 20y be positive if it's times by? Oh, okay, I see now.
I have 92 plus 24. That gives me what?
116.
116.
I did my math.
Okay. Now the last step to this is to divide both sides by 29. So your y value should have been 4. Okay? Now that we have this, you need to
So the original.
plug in 4 into y, not the original equation. I believe you'll get the same answer anyway. 16, 12 minus 12, negative 4, negative 1, 4, 36, negative 12. Oh, yeah, you went. Okay, you can substitute that 4 in for y into either one of those equations, all 4 of them. You could do the original one, or you could do the ones that we just made up when we multiplied each one by a negative 3 or a 4. Okay? Let's do the top equation. 4x plus 3y is equal to 8. Okay? So I'm going to substitute in y. I'm going to substitute in 4 for y. All right? So from here, I'm getting x by itself. That's all I'm doing. 4 times 3 gives me 12. I'm going to minus 12 from both sides. That leaves me with a negative 4 is equal to 4x. The last step to this is to divide both sides by 4. So the solution is negative 1, 4. That's what your solution should have been.